okay, let's just stop this now because it can be done quickly.
I was gonna just say that. It just goes to show, innit? If they really wanted to do something about it,
I genuinely believe, and now this is my standpoint on it, like generally, right? And this is my opinion at the end of the day. Like you can get angry at me for what you want. Like I genuinely believe that it is an issue that they can resolve, or not necessarily resolve, but definitely
Improve
decrease
on.
and
Intervene,
improve.
yeah.
But I'm just feel like they're deciding.
There's
no pros to that for them. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, what is that going to involve? It's going to involve looking after the poorer communities. Of course, with the government we have in place right now, their target audience isn't the poorer communities because we wouldn't have voted for them in the first place. You know what I mean? But I feel like at the end of the day, like let's be honest, that's the main issue about it. I feel like with the governments, it's like they don't really care about this issue, and they have issues with the XL Bully Dogs, which he just shows you with 6 months in and out. They've changed the whole law. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if you really wanted to, you can make it harder, but you're deciding not to. So I feel like that's where we need to approach. And number one, that's the number one place. Number two would be the kids. Now, what would your opinion be on the best resolution in terms of making sure that these kids are putting down their knives?
Listening to them. Come on. Listening to them. When do we get, every radio station, every TV show is an adult. Where do you get in the young youths having these conversations? I mean, big up to my brothers.
No, we're old now.
But our audience is, he's right, he's right.
Where are the forums where young people can discuss this? Because, you know what I mean? Like, people think kids are kids are kids. They're not. Once you're past 12, you're practically a young adult.
Starting to
in
be
this
clued
day and age, you know what I mean? And if you go to prison, you're only getting this much grace before you are treated like an adult in prison. So that area of youth voice, where are we hearing it? Why is there no young people in Parliament, in the MP's office, sitting down with the mayor, discussing the real issues? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if not the young people, the parents of the young people, because the young parents of victims are the most clued up on this subject. I'm a voice, I'm an activist, I'm a flag bearer, but I'm not an expert. When I sat down with the parents, the mothers especially, because they have to trace back what happened to their child to the minute detail. Dude, we need to listen to these people. I say we need to listen to young people more, have more podcasts of like, all right, talk to us about the beef. What is it about? Let's understand it. Because the more we can understand what's going on, the better we can help them or intervene.
And even what we're doing now, I know it's going to help so many people. Like there's these, I like going to clubs, and I remember I left this club once, and there was loads of like Somali kids outside the club. And all of my boys felt uneasy. But I'm a man that stands on my own too, you know what I'm saying? No one doesn't really make me feel uncomfortable. So I've gone over to one of the Somali youths and I've gone, why are you man out here? And he's looked at my watch. So he was just basically implying that they're out here to rob people, do you get what I'm saying? I took the youth aside. I think I made him sit in my car. I can't remember even how it went. But I'm talking to the guy now and I've got through to him so much to the point that I've got him on Snapchat, do you know what I mean? He's messaged me like a week later and I'm going on, I've messaged him and I've gone like, what's going on, bro? Like, remember what I said to you? None of this is worth it. Like, the risk is not bigger than the reward, you get what I'm saying? Like, what can happen to you from what you're going to get out of that little 8-bag kettle is not worth it. So I feel like what you're doing is amazing. I feel like what we're doing now, even having this conversation on this podcast, is going to touch people. So I feel like another way for us to improve on it is people within our position of power to do stuff about it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we're doing our little 2 pence here by just even alone having this convo. Ian Wright's done something. He bought a cage on the estate that he grew up in. Do you get what I'm saying?
I feel like it's affected everybody. Like, I feel like, for example, I know somebody that's been affected by knife crime. I have myself. Have you? I'm sure you probably know somebody.
Yeah.
Someone I know someone that's for you.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like very close to home. So I feel like it's something that everybody's experienced or heard of. And it's like one of my best friends has been stabbed. You know, my friend I'm talking about. So it's kind of like, it happens so often, but I think it's kind of swept under the rug, which is kind of crazy. But I had a question for you, of course, because I'm not sure that you're even aware of the quote unquote for the audio listeners. No, I'm okay. The quote unquote controversy regarding you being the flag bearer in itself, because obviously Idris Elba, everybody knows him for all the acting that you've done, obviously, as well as your music. But I feel like maybe in the roles that you play, majority of them obviously could be, quote unquote, again, violent and angry and etc. So it's kind of like, why do you feel like you are the right spokesperson, and why, you know what I mean? And why do you feel like people should listen to you? Because, well, you're just only helping the people's mindsets. You know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, I feel like, look, films are films are films. Violence in film, you know what I mean, does to some degree glorify violence to some degree. But you're sitting in a film knowing that it's fake. It's fiction. You know it's fake. You know that is an actor. That is not real life. You know, it's kind of like, let's say superheroes is probably the biggest genre currently, right? It makes the most money, but you don't see people running around with capes, you know, or jumping off thingy. You know what I mean? You know, and audiences know that there's a reality that I can take with me, and there's definitely some I can't. That said, I'm not here justifying violence, but films are escapism. It's exactly it is. It is very different from a youth in a community who's nervous about going out in his own community. It's very, very different, okay? A guy that's got a knife in his pocket just to go to the chicken shop is very different from a character in a film. You know what I'm saying? I don't see the correlation.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
Anyone that wants to use that as some sort of like, well, why should they listen to me? Only reason I should listen to me is because I care enough and I'm a parent. And I've got a soapbox. I don't feel that I am a knife crime expert. I'm not here to be the flag bearer, so to speak. I just feel like this is a society problem that we need to address. If I wasn't an actor, I'd still have the same voice about it. If I wasn't in films, you know what I mean? So I think that, you know, I mean, I've seen some of the reports. It's like, oh, this is a bit hypocritical, bro. That's lazy journalism to me. I mean, come on. If you're gonna say something to me, say something about my campaign. Don't ask me about my movies, because you and I both know that is fake. It's fiction. It's got nothing to do with a kid on an estate right now that's holding a shank and wondering, boy, is he gonna get hurt today? That is more about he's not safe in his community. He doesn't feel like the police have got his back. He's not sure because he's watching the government not really handle it in the same way that he would like to be protected. He knows that he's got to protect himself. What's that got to do with movies?
Press are just idiots, though. What you think? Big Idris Elba needs to do this, bro. Like, that's the way I would look at you. See, if I worked at the Daily Mail and I'm like, rah, Idris was all over like being a voice for the youth and knife campaigns, I'd be like, wow, the man must really care.
Yeah,
like for you to create that story. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
good news don't sell. Let's be honest. Like gossip and propaganda has been a thing of how many years? So it's like it's the age old thing. So,
but the way I see it is this: is that if that article,
that's just pooey, that though.
No, but if that article, at least someone's reading it, going, huh. He's on about knife crime. They got an opinion about it where they might not have even had an opinion about it. You know what they say? All press, all good publicity is good publicity. In my opinion, if that's the story that you want to run with, great. But at least get people talking about knife crime.
But I feel like, you know, the oldest in my area when I was like the 12s, the 11s, the 10, 13, 14, however old I was, like the oldest in my area would be smoking their weed and watching us play football, and the youngers and that. But they'll tell us, yo, stay off the roads, little man. You know what I mean? So it's like, they're in and amongst it. They have their ops and etc. But they're telling me and my friends, make sure you don't do this. This isn't cool, you know. And I really respect that because of the fact that they could glorify it and say, work for me and I'll give you £50. £50 to me at 10 years old was £1 million.
Big change.
I'll do anything for that. You know what I mean? But they're the ones saying to me, even if I remember a couple of my friends would go up to them and be like, yo, I want to make money quickly. They're like, stay off that, man. You're a good youth, man. You don't do that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, there was certain orders like that.
That's mental shit, man. Mental. That's what
community. For real, you know, without even realizing you was being mentored. You know?
Oh, bro, if right now that man said to him, yes, I will let you in, all of a sudden he makes him sell this and then he loses that and now you owe him money. And then you're 14, 15, 16 and you're just getting older. And then you're in post-Cold Wars and now all of a sudden you're carrying a knife. It's like, this is where it all starts at the end of the day. And of course, it's like not having that mentorship, or let's say you're a young, like your brothers or your dad, and it's just been in and amongst the judiciary system where you're just non-stop being in prison. How are you going to come out of that cycle, bro? It's mentors. And this is why, again, I'm going to relay back on the point that they need to reinstall these funds where they're making these community centers, and that's what helped me. Yeah. What are you going to say, sir?
I was going to say, like, when you say like playing football on the street and that, it's like, I don't even see kids doing that no more.
No, bro. It's like, no. The flipping cage I used to play at is empty.
Exactly.
When I go to my mum's yard, I'm driving past and I'm seeing the cage empty. In my head, I'm thinking, that was rammed. 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, I was in there every day with a man from flipping 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. until it went dark. And my mum would run outside and say, come back in.
Come back in.
Like, bro, these were the days. Like, now everybody's just like, yard. Like, I got my nephew, I told you, he was 3 years old and he could type in my password of my iPhone and then go on YouTube and write something on YouTube. I'm thinking, when did they do this? Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're too advanced, but I feel like that's what ruins their brain, in my opinion, of course.
Even in schools, it could start from schools, because I remember in school I had big up Paul, man. There was a guy called Paul, and he used to manage a Sunday league team as well. But they hired him in the school to be that mentor for the bad youths. You get what I'm saying? All the bad youths would go and see Paul if they was vets one day.
Mr. JJ, Mr. JJ, yeah.
So I feel
Rest in
like
peace.
it starts from school because that's where you spend the majority of your time. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like again,
I agree with that. I
Again,
agree with
funds,
that,
innit?
'cause I feel
It's
like-
all funds though, innit?
You know, like when the government's examining, like how do we do that then? How do we put more money into youth centres? Definitely look at the schools as a fulcrum because, you know, like you said, like I remember, you know, I mean, an older actor, his name's Paul Barber. He was in the Full Monty, one of those old films.
yeah.
He came to my drama school. He's mixed race. And it was the first sort of black actor that I sort of was like, rah, this is
Crazy,
and he
yeah.
sat down in the drama too and he was talking about, you know, this is what my career's like, blah, blah, blah. And he single-handedly influenced me to be like, yeah, I can do this. Because I could see someone that was actually doing it. Looked, well, it's different, but it looked like me.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And he was in the classroom talking about it. He was big on the TV them time there. Those mentors, man, we can't overlook them. We can't overlook them. We need the government to say, right,
I'd
well,
like
maybe
to do that.
No, I feel like you touched on a great point, which is where do kids spend majority of their time as kids, like from 11 to 17 or 18 now, they're changing the laws. School. So I feel like that is a very good, I didn't even think about that. Like,
I would like to go into school, you know.
and just talk to the kids.
Hey, you would shut it down. If you did a school tour,
Yeah.
and people would be like, right, what was that? What, Philly came to the
Yeah,
school and
yeah,
he came
yeah,
for
yeah,
1
yeah.
hour, and all he did, in fact, you should do your podcast live from the schools one day.
That would be
Do
cool.
little
That's a cool
tour,
idea.
a little
That's what I'm
tour.
saying. That would
Just
be
talk
good, man.
about it. Because it will change one of those. youths.
At least if we're doing that, you know.
That's
what I
what
mean?
you
Like,
said when we
right,
were
I
before.
wanna
Yeah,
do that.
I said for me, it's always been a thing where it's the cliche of if we change at least one person's mindset, but we
be
really
happy,
mean that. Like it's a thing where that person, that his family can now still have him in his life, and whereas if we
Yeah.
didn't have that talk, imagine that he wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? So
That's
it's
very
like
true.
trying to avoid. I don't know. You still got to start small because I feel like you had that point of being the 10-year-olds now is what you're
Yeah,
concerned for because of
yeah.
course when they turn 17 and 18, hopefully that's
Exactly.
the thing that changes their.
Yeah, I mean, like this is it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's gonna take time. So I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like there's a 10, 11-year-old right now that's like literally got that fork in the road. He sees Idris Elba on some video rapping about knife crime and he's about to get one. He might go, raw. Then before you know it, he's down a rabbit hole looking at stories about kids that have gone to jail, how ugly it is in jail for kids. And he's going, you know what? Maybe I won't
This is
do that.
long, yeah.
Maybe I'll go and play in the cage and play football for half a day. If I win one of those kids, that's the point here.
God
You get me?
willing, we've had an impact on a young person watching this right now, man. That would be amazing.
One thing I want to ask you is portraying these characters. How do you get into that role? Like, is there any type of motivation from your upbringing or like seeing people around you? Is it like how do you get into that bag?
I mean, listen. I mean, I think you know, playing Stringer Bell especially, right, is a drug dealer and someone that was trying to get off the streets. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up in Dalston, which is super trendy, but back then Dalston weren't trendy. It was a front line, you know what I mean, where people come and got their weed, got their little thing or whatever. But the drug dealers, them times there, were business people. They weren't, you know what I mean? They were nice guys. It's like, yo, what, Leroy, you good, man? It wasn't like, yo, shady and da-da-da-da-da. These drug dealers had charisma and they were always side hustling this little bag doing something else. You know, man had a garage or, you know what I mean, he was a DJ, but he was doing this. So my influence on Stringer Bell was what I grew up with, you know what I mean? Like, drug dealers were smooth, they were nice people, they were trying to get out of the hood, they were always like making sure the kids didn't follow them, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? I remember being in Baltimore, this is like 22 years ago, and coming around and thinking, wow, you know, we all seen Nino Brown from New Jack City them time there, all those type of drug dealers. And I was like, no, I want to try and approach this differently. I want to try and approach this like the suits and smile gangsters that I grew up in London. And that's where it came from. But actually, the real Stringer Bell is a real gentleman who, you know, he's an actual businessman. And he was part of that time period in Baltimore, DC, where they were pushing a lot of weight. And he was a businessman. He got out. And he's not dead. He got out, did his thing. But, you know what I mean, I had a real person as an influence as well, but it just reminded me of my youth, like the people in East London that were just different. You know what I mean, driving around in Beamers and just being nice people. They weren't gangsters, if you get what I mean.
Just wanted their money.
So for you, what are the next, like, what are the first steps in order to try and like minimize the numbers and try to get these knives off these streets. And like, what are you going to tell people right now that there's somebody at home? Of course, there's loads of kids at home that know their ops, that know the people they have beef with. Therefore, they don't want. The problem I have is the people that just carry a knife knowing that nobody has a problem with them. Like, just ifs and whats and maybes. You know, that's the problem. That's come on now. You need to be smarter than that. But I feel like people like that kid from the video, which knows he has people that want to stab him constantly. How are you now going to tell him to drop that knife? That's very important for me.
I know. I mean,
it's very difficult.
I really feel like, first of all, you know, the stages on me is for government intervention to just take knives out of the commerce. So when no one's making money, no one's selling, no one's buying them, okay? Let's just deal with that problem first, okay? The layered problem, secondly, of communities and how we intervene with young people. For me, young people need to understand what the consequences of their actions might be. You get me? Like, if you end up in the back of an ambulance with a stab wound and you're dying, bleeding out because someone left you on the pavement for a long time and didn't know what to do, you need to think about that while you're carrying this knife. Also, if you're someone that just struck someone, you're running for your life, at some point it will catch up with you. And when it does, that life in prison is not fun, okay? It's a long stretch and it's just not fun for you, you know what I mean? Like, just remember, whatever beef's going on in your community, right? Do you remember who you had beef with when you was 12? Exactly. You know what I mean?
I get it. Yeah,
if you're 15, and then imagine what you're going to be at 25 years old, having done a 10 stretch, all right? Or you're dead. Like, if you put yourself in a perspective and be like, is it really worth it? Is
actually
it
not
really
worth it, man.
worth it? That's the point that I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to tell you, squash the beef, you know, gangs and gangs, da-da-da. I get it, you know what I mean? People are in communities where they feel they have to have it as protection. But I just want you to think about, what if I get caught with it? What if I get hurt? What's gonna happen to my family? What's gonna happen to my mum, my sisters, my brothers, and everyone, okay? What's gonna happen to my education and my future? Like, it's dead. Now, I'm hopingly, I haven't mentioned this, but I'm gonna see some people in prison and have a conversation about what it is like for them now and what might they have done differently. Because I think that's going to help me understand how to articulate, okay, what I think young people should be thinking about. And as I sit here, I feel like I just wish someone had told a young man, listen, bruh, go this way, don't go that way. Because if you go that way, you're going to be sitting in that jail cell for 17 hours of your day for a good amount of time. And that is no life. And I just wish that, and I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, you need to do this or do that. I just want to shed light on the opportunities for change. You know what I mean?
And have you been on the grounds in terms of like removing knives from particular areas and have you done this type of stuff?
Big up to Farron. Farron, who's it's got Faz Amnesty, who's a young man that
Gets rid of the knives.
Yeah, I know.
Literally goes to neighborhoods, picks up knives of people that want to get rid of them. I went on a run with him one time. It was in North London. And it was, man, I got so much respect for Farron. He does not have to do it. He does not get funding from the government. And anytime he goes to the police with these knives, he gets questioned about it. It's like, rah, where'd you get these, da-da-da-da. Like, he's putting himself on the line. You know what I mean?
God.
But big up to him.
No, big up to him.
When I went, it was interesting because I didn't meet the person because they didn't want to meet me. They knew I was there. It was like, big up Idris, but I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be there, da-da-da-da-da. So I stayed away. But Farron came back and he's like, yo, man, the guy is just scared. He just wants to get rid of it. He doesn't want it in his life. And he was a little bit older now, so he's just like, man, this is going to get me into trouble. Yeah. And he doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't know what to do with the knife. That's the other thing. It's like, I've got it now. I bought it. I'm hiding it in my bedroom. I'm hiding it somewhere. What do I do? And Faz says, listen, I'll take that burden from you, no questions asked, and get rid of it. And so, like, big up to Faz for doing that, man. Like, Farron's, I just think that we just need more mentorship, more like you people talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? We're not going to solve it overnight.
No.
But the more people that get together and be like, all right, what if the schools worked with the police a little bit more and the health services worked with youth services a little bit more? Because someone in a hospital, like a paramedic who picks up a young kid, he's the first person that person's looking at him like, yo, save my life, save my life. They end up talking to that person. They end up talking to that paramedic. That paramedic could be like, all right, cool. I've understood what he was going through. He was very, very scared. If he had done this and this and this, and he tells the youth services that, or tells the schools that, then we might be able to sort of like eradicate the problem
Yeah,
before.
work something out.
Everyone's talking to each other. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like